At the bus stop, a peculiar passenger boarded the dusty, dilapidated bus that travelled along provincial roads. His presence was unusual, especially considering the stop was located in a deserted wilderness. The surrounding villages were dying out, as the youth flocked to bigger cities for the opportunity to live more comfortably, while the elderly simply passed away due to old age. The old man, approximately 75 years old, looked like a character from old folk tales. He had long, well-groomed grey hair, and his beard looked in all directions, resembling the crown of an oak tree, to which the old man somewhat resembled with his stockiness. His clothing was simple, not rags, but not a luxurious suit either. In some places, patches were visible. The clothes were old but functional. He held on to a homemade walking stick. In general, he looked like a prophet, a pilgrim, or even a beggar. However, the respectable old man paid no attention to the curious glances of the passengers. He stood firmly on his feet, and his whole posture was not that of a bent old man who barely dragged his bones, but rather that of an aging warrior whose remnants of strength were still with him. "Excuse me, how much further until the district city?" the old man calmly asked the driver. "I'm going to the Le Bourdanin restaurant. Is there still one?" "Of course there is. What brings you there? Don't get me wrong, but you don't seem like a regular at such establishments." "I decided to visit distant relatives, find out how they're doing, and treat myself to some delicious food." The old man smoothed his beard and hid a grin under it. "Well, I have good news for you. Our bus station is not far from that restaurant. In a couple of hours we will get there," answered the driver. "Thank you." The elderly man headed to a free seat, and people fell silent at the sight of him, looking at him respectfully. By evening, the bus had arrived at its final destination, and the friendly driver even escorted the old man to the restaurant. After bidding farewell and thanking him, the old man headed towards the entrance. Cuthbert remembered his hometown differently. Although his hometown welcomed him with open arms, but it was unrecognizable. The old man remembered it as a modest town, but now it was vulgar, flashy, and covered its natural beauty with a lot of makeup, making it unrecognizable. He felt himself like a pilgrim who went to distant lands, taking a handful of his homelands in his soul, and after decades of wandering, he returned home. Neither he nor his home recognized each other. To be honest, nobody was waiting for the elderly man at the restaurant, but it didn't bother him. His journey led him to the right address, and that was important. The parking lot in front of the restaurant was filled with expensive cars, and the noise of the celebration could be heard through the open doors. It was clear that the wedding was in full swing. A well-groomed staff member stood at the entrance. The young man was polished and shaved to add shine to the already rich event. The elderly man approached him and asked, "Hello, could you tell me where the bride and groom are?" The staff member frowned, annoyed by silly requests from drunken guests or original jokers all evening. He doubted that someone unfamiliar would come to the wedding, so he waved his hands towards the banquet hall. "They're all in there. I think you'll recognize the bride of the groom yourself. Of course, they're the most beautiful, although the bridesmaid is beautiful too." The elderly man didn't listen to his speculation more and headed towards the banquet hall. The bride and groom were seated at the head of the table. The young woman was dressed in a splendid wedding dress. The groom looked cheerful. He was dressed in a classic suit, which he wore with a feigned lightness. He felt the desire to control all the festivities, instead of indulging in the general merriment. He was good-looking, so no one could be surprised by the choice of the bride. Cuthbert headed to the newlyweds, but nobody paid him any attention. Everyone was dancing, singing, and having fun. Toasts were being made for the health and happiness of the newlyweds, and for many children to come. The old man approached the young couple unnoticed and greeted them. Cheers to the newlyweds. The bride greeted him with a joyful smile. Closer, it was obvious that she was already quite tired from her main day in her life, and the groom was just annoyed. They would have gladly gone to their place by now, but tradition is tradition. "Hello, what brings you to us?" the bride asked politely. "Guess, beauty. Or let's ask the groom, he's the head of the family. Fate brought me from afar, and that's why I predict the fate of others. What are they afraid to know?" "You're Matthew, aren't you?" the old man asked. The groom tensed up and asked demandingly, "Who are you?" "Does it matter who this poor old man is? What matters is who is still alive. I came here by destiny. I see a young man whose conscience is bothering him. Poor guy, but it's not your bride." At that moment the bride shuddered, tears glistening in the corners of her eyes. Matthew paid no attention to her and stared at the old man. He was furious. If gaze could kill, the old man would have turned to ash a long time ago. The unexpected guest's words were like a match, and accumulated exhaustion and irritation found an outlet. The groom angrily threw a question at the old man. "Why the hell did you come to my wedding and decide to ruin everyone's mood? Shall I throw you out, or will you go in a known direction yourself?" The old man remained calm and continued, "You know, boy, you don't have to scare me. I've been scared many times in my life, but I'm still walking on this earth, and death hasn't claimed me yet. So, don't worry about me, but you should be afraid for yourself. For your actions, you're facing jail time. You may not believe it, get angry, or whatever, but it will happen." The groom felt like he had been slapped across the face. He turned pale and blinked rapidly. All his fighting spirit crumbled like a house of cards. In his eyes there was a silent question. "How do you know this?" Meanwhile, the uninvited guest continued to fog. "Have you been hunting recently?" "A long time ago," the groom replied in a low voice. "And in vain. There are too many beasts in the woods now, although I've heard that they're making cartridges now only to scare the animals with noise, not to kill them. How do you feel about that?" "Oh, everything is fine with my bullets," replied Matthew, and felt hatred towards the stranger beggar he had met just a few minutes ago. Even though the old man didn't directly accuse him, he clearly knew something. Laurel, the bride, saw only wisdom in the old man. He touched the strings of her soul that she had preferred to hide for the past year and a half. Now the old man seemed to pass on a message from her past world, greetings from her deceased lover. He had been gone for a year and a half, but she still couldn't forget him. She agreed to the marriage with Matthew only to forget and move on, and now the old man mentioned it in passing. After all, it was during the hunt that the incident happened. "It's a good thing you have real bullets. There's been all sorts of precedents. But I see that you're a tough guy, who can even go after a bear," the old man continued. Matthew couldn't take it anymore. He got up, took the stranger by the elbow, roughly led him out of the restaurant to the stunned gaze of the guests, and the incident was forgotten after a minute. Meanwhile, the bride used a back door and caught up with the old man. She handed him a small bundle of treats, quickly put together in the restaurant kitchen. "I'm so sorry. Forgive Matthew. He's just nervous. He's just so emotional. It's not every day that a man gets married. That's why he's so angry. But I listened to you carefully, and you said strange words. Nothing really, but somehow it's scary and creepy. Do you know something about that day?" "My name is Cuthbert. Maybe I do, maybe I don't. You're looking for answers that I can give you, but I won't. If you want to find them, remember where you left your love, and look for it in the closed village not far away. Answers are waiting for you there. And now I'm leaving. A long road awaits me, and you have a choice: to look for the truth or to live as you've been living." The old man turned and limped towards the bus stop. The bride was called, but she didn't hear anything and continued to stand still. Memories consumed her. It all happened a year and a half ago. Her beloved Paul and Matthew went hunting on that fateful day. In addition to their business and friendship, they had a shared passion for hunting. Nothing foretold the trouble. As usual, the friends took their rifles and went to find prey, but they became the prey themselves. When Matthew arrived home that evening, he told everything. A bear attacked them. The animal probably woke up from hibernation earlier than usual, so it was aggressive. Paul was less lucky. His rifle broke. Matthew shot at the bear and ran away when he saw that his friend was already dead. They didn't even find his body later. For 6 months, Laurel suffered and couldn't find her place. She blamed and cursed everyone and everything. After a while, Matthew started making timid attempts to become her boyfriend, but the girl kept the memory of her beloved for a year before finally responding to Matthew's feelings. She didn't burn with great love for him, but he was a handsome young man. She was sure he would always stand by her because he adored her and felt guilty of the death of his friend. Matthew often said he was guilty before her for not protecting Paul, and he said it sincerely. She believed and forgave him long ago. After the wedding and a short honeymoon, when the newlyweds finally had their fill of each other and remembered that they had other matters besides love, Matthew began to frequently disappear at work. Meanwhile, Laurel took over the arrangement of their family nest and completely immersed herself in household chores. It was unusual for her to realize herself as a wife to meet her husband from work. The absence of great, pure love weighed on her. She was expecting for something else from her marriage. Meanwhile, Laurel increasingly remembered the elder. He even appeared in her dreams and stared at her with reproach and silence. One day, Laurel called her husband, who was at work. "Yes, Laurel," came the slightly irritated voice from the other end of the phone. Apparently Matthew was busy and she was distracting him. Perhaps it was precisely this irritability that helped Laurel finally pull herself together and carry out her plans. "Darling, sorry to distract you. I was talking to Rachel, and she invited me to go hiking in the woods overnight. She has a house there that was her grandfather's, a gamekeeper. We'll stay there. Are you okay with that?" Laurel made up a pleasant, harmless story for her husband. In response, Matthew sighed heavily. "Of course, I don't mind. Especially, I'll be busy with our business." "Thanks, Kitty. Love you," laughed Laurel. "Have a good trip. Don't forget to leave some food. Kitty won't eat whiskers with beer." "Well, I've dealt with the main thing," Laurel thought to herself. First, Laurel stopped at a gas station and filled all available containers with fuel. She didn't know how long she would be looking for the village, so she had to prepare. The next point of her journey was a trip to the store for groceries. While she wandered around the supermarket, she did not lose the joyful excitement of participating in a small adventure. This is how a mischievous girl feels, running away from home for the first time through a window to a disco. The journey met her with deserted, dusty roads, potholes, and frequent stops. Little by little, this shook the childish delight out of the woman, leaving only determination. If the old man could do it, so could she, for sure. Several hours of tension that any driver experiences behind the wheel did not prevent Laurel from admiring the surroundings. Forests alternated with cultivated fields, and fields gave way to hills, all of which fascinated, bloomed and smelled. The woman stopped more than once just to pick a flower and inhale its scent. Sometimes she came across wild animals, mostly deer or hares. She looked at this diverse world with wide open eyes. She arrived at the bus stop in the evening. While she was figuring out her route, Laurel realized that it was too late to go anywhere, and she would have to spend the night here until morning. She drove a short distance away and turned off the car. After a quick snack of galettes and mineral water, she unfolded the driver's seat and tried to sleep. The cacophony of the night forest was so unusual for a city dweller that the woman couldn't close her eyes for a long time, and only fatigue and stress from the day's experiences led her to sleep closer to midnight. As Laurel stretched her stiff body in the morning, she scolded herself for her foolish adventure. But her heart skipped a beat when she remembered Paul. If the old man could unveil the secret, she would find peace and be able to move on. That's what Laurel thought as she approached the first settlement. She met an old woman with a bucket of water who was going about her business and greeted her. "Good morning," the woman responded and looked at Laurel skeptically. It was clear that strangers were not welcome here. "Where are you from and what do you need?" "I'm looking for a closed village where an elder with a beard lives." The elderly woman looked at Laurel strangely and hurried away. "I don't know any lost villages and any elders." Surprised by the woman's strange reaction, Laurel drove on. But the same thing happened in the next village, and only in the third one did a middle-aged forester point to a half-abandoned dirt forest path whose entrance was marked by a wooden post. "Just be careful. There are all kinds of rumors about that village. We don't have much contact with them, and they don't seek our friendship out either. We live like this, not bothering each other. I don't know what you need them for, but if you feel something's wrong, come straight back here," said the forester. "Thank you, I'll keep that in mind." Laurel smiled, said goodbye to the forester and drove on. The branches whipped against the side windows and sometimes tried to break the windshield. The grass almost covered the car's headlights. She drove slowly because of this, afraid of missing a turn or just breaking the car. An hour of unhurried driving brought her to a rather strange place. The settlement was located on a huge artificial clearing that most likely arose when trees were cut down for austere log cabins. The dwellings were rough. The only modern touch was the glass windows. Everything else was purely wooden. Despite the early hour, the village was alive. Children ran around here and there, men were busy with crafts, and women only occasionally appeared on the street. The appearance of a car interested all the settlement's residents without exception. The men stopped working and went out to meet the uninvited guests. Laurel got out of the car. She was scared, but determined to finish what she started. If this was some kind of sect, she seemed unlikely to escape. "Good day, young lady. What brings you here? And why have you disturbed our peace?" said the bearded, burly, middle-aged man, who looked more like a bear than a human. Apparently, he was the local leader. "Hello, I was invited," answered Laurel, and the villagers exchanged glances. "Invited by whom?" "We have renounced the world and live alone with nature. We don't invite strangers here. People come here by the call of their heart." "So why did you come?" the leader said. "You could say it was by the call of my heart. An elder invited me here. His name is Cuthbert, and he promised to tell me the secret of my fiancé's death." Suddenly, an old man with the familiar staff emerged from the crowd. "So, you finally decided to get to the truth. Or did your conscience torment you?" "Why should my conscience torment me?" asked the woman, surprised. "Come with me." The old man gestured with his staff, leading the girl towards his cabin. The villagers parted, letting the guest through, then silently went about their business. So, after a few minutes, only a car reminded of the unusual place for this event. The old man's cabin looked like a fairy tale scary dungeon, but Laurel soon got used to the darkness. Cuthbert led her to the brightest room in the dwelling. It was spacious, with birdsong coming through the open windows. A man lay on a large bed closer to the fireplace. He was emaciated and looked tortured, but his eyes were thoughtful. Next to the bed was a small stool, which apparently served as a bedside table. On it lay a book, a wooden, unfinished child's toy, and a knife with which the toy was carved. "Well, have you recognized him?" asked Cuthbert. "No. Who is he?" whispered Laurel, and the man lying on the bed looked at her unfriendly, as if she had offended him. "You see, Paul, I've told you, that woman's love is short. She buried you long ago, and your appearance began to fade from her memory," the elder gloated. "Don't rush, Cuthbert, and let her come to her senses." The lying man's voice was somewhat hoarse, but familiar to Laurel. But how could it be possible? "Paul? Is that you?" exclaimed the woman, losing consciousness. She came to when the old man splashed icy water on her face. Oh, those gentle city girls. They faint at the slightest stress. Cuthbert grumbled as he sat Laurel down on a chair. "Can you guys manage without me?" the old man asked, more Laurel than Paul. She nodded. "So, we've met. Have you really forgotten me?" asked the lying man, and stared at Laurel. "No, Paul, but a lot of water has flowed under the bridge. I thought you were dead. After all, Matthew said that the bear tore you to pieces then." Laurel's eyes filled with tears. She understood that she had betrayed her man. "Well, let me tell you the truth, and then we'll decide what to do next." During the hunt, Paul and Matthew encountered a bear that attacked them. They tried to escape, but the beast ran straight towards Paul. Hunter's instinct told him to shoot straight at the bear's face, but at the last moment, instead of a shot, there was a click, and Paul realized this was the end. He tried to dodge and move to the side, but the bear's paw reached him and pushed him with great force against a strong pine tree. Since then, he couldn't feel his legs. Paul lost consciousness and then briefly came to from the sound of a gunshot. His mind told him that it was Matthew trying to shoot the bear. The bear stooped over its prey, but the shot in its back only enraged it, and the beast turned towards its attacker. But Matthew was already running as fast as he could to the car, thinking that it was better for Paul to die than for him. Taking advantage of the fact that the bear had left, Paul crawled, not knowing where he was going, how long he crawled, when he lost unconsciousness, what he ate. All these events were erased from the young man's memory. All he remembered was the helplessness of not feeling his legs. When Cuthbert found him in the woods, Paul mistook him for a prophet because he was by then running a fever. Fortunately for the rescued man, the old man had a feeling that day and went to pick up mushrooms. Cuthbert was quite strong, so he was able to drag Paul to the settlement. For a month, the old man had been busy pulling the hapless hunter out of the edge of the afterlife. He was delirious for over a week. He would call his beloved, curse his friend who had abandoned him, and swear at the bear. Then Paul gradually regained consciousness, but still didn't understand where he was and thought he had died. Gradually, Cuthbert was able to bring the young man back to life, healing everything except his spine. Since then, Paul had been bedridden. The life of the old man was no less interesting and tragic. Cuthbert was a well-known surgeon until he was in a car accident. It wasn't his fault, but his son and wife died. So, he persistently blamed himself for a long time. Work would have helped him forget, but his vision began to deteriorate, and a constant tremor permanently closed off his professional activity. Seeing no way out for himself, the strong-willed doctor did not drink or end his life. Instead, he decided to become a hermit. He decided for himself that he had helped people enough, and that the familiar places only brought back painful memories of his dead wife and son. He got on the first bus that came along. Then he just walked where the eyes can see, and then bumped into the closed road. It can be safely said that fate itself brought him there. He liked their ideas, and one day he felt that the vague, unpolished, but still a gift that manifested itself in random visions. And it was in this place, alone with himself and nature, that he found peace, releasing his deceased wife and son into a world where they were better off. Once, Cuthbert had a vision in the middle of the night about Paul. The old man woke him up and said, "Listen carefully. I'll tell you once and forget about it tomorrow. You decide what you want. Are you ready? Your friend is to blame for your misfortune and weakness, but not because he abandoned you in the woods. He set it up long ago. He found a den, and then he gave you bad bullets. Seeing you with a bear, his conscience aroused, and he made a shot. And I had a vision that his wedding was coming soon. If you correctly described to me your girlfriend, he is going to marry her. It's not strange because it's been 1.5 years. Now think about it and give me an answer in the morning about what you have decided." In the morning, Paul's decision was ready, and Cuthbert went to the wedding. The whole time that Laurel was listening to his story, she didn't stop crying and endlessly repeating the same thing. "Forgive me, forgive me, forgive me." "Calm down. I had enough time to forgive you. But why him? Why Matthew?" Paul asked. "Then it's my turn to tell the story. I couldn't eat, drink or sleep for 6 months, knowing that I lost you. During that time, Matthew supported me in every way possible. He had feelings for me before, and now I was single again. But I wasn't in the mood for a relationship. I was grieving for you. Half a year later, another disaster struck me. My father fell seriously ill, and there was not enough money for treatment. That's when Matthew went all in. He suggested combining efforts and creating a family. He said, "If you don't love me, at least let me love you." And we have more in common than it seems. Not only the memory of Paul. What was left for me? I love my father, and that was my chance. I accepted his proposal. So, the rich Matthew saved my father. Saved selflessly, of course, Paul sneered. After all, he took over my part of the business, and he framed me for the bear's amusement. Good savior. No way. He's a scoundrel. The girl started apologizing again for everything and cried. The flow of lamentation was interrupted by Cuthbert. "You know, I've seen a lot in my life. Breakups, betrayals, and deaths on the operating table. I often argued with death, playing fool with her and ruining her bloody harvest, pulling patients out of clinical death. But now I've done everything I can for you. Thank you. I don't know how to thank you. You gave me a second life. You gave me my beloved back," said Laurel. "But what now? Should I run to the police and file a complaint against Matthew? And what will I say there?" "You're thinking straight. Nobody will believe you. They'll laugh at you even more." Paul expressed his opinion and then added, "Do you want to be with me? A bedridden invalid? What difference does it make to me whether you're a bedridden or not? You're alive and I love you. That's what matters." "I've been thinking a little." The old man began speaking in riddles. "I said that I did everything I could for both of you, and that's really true, but for you, Paul, I can do something else. They say that a debt is beautiful when it's paid. I have one acquaintance who owes me. He is a neurosurgeon. I think if you send him a message from me, he'll put you back on your feet. He's a knowledgeable specialist, better than the ones I knew. You see how it all works out perfectly. I must go into town to arrange everything. began to hurry the woman. "Wait, let me admire you a little," asked Paul, and Laurel moved closer to him, and they kissed. "Laurel, let's keep the fact that I'm alive a secret for now. Let's not give Matthew a chance to harm us. You go to the city and find out about a doctor. I'll wait for you here." "Okay, my love. It will be difficult to get out unnoticed again, but I'll manage." They said their goodbyes and the girl left the village. She drove home feeling inspired, but all the way home she felt nauseous. Laurel attributed it to motion sickness from the long car ride, but when she got home, the nausea didn't go away. Remembering that this malaise had been haunting her for weeks, Laurel suddenly felt a chill on her back. She went to the bathroom, took a test, and saw 2 stripes. It was a sudden blow to her love for Paul. The girl was distraught. On one hand, there was her beloved Paul, a disabled man who had lost everything and might not be able to return to the city. On the other hand, there was Matthew, who adored, cherished, and provided for her. And she was expecting his baby. Her rational mind was leaning towards staying with Matthew. Love doesn't feed a baby, and happiness is a fickle thing. Nevertheless, now Laurel had lost her restful sleep. A week later, one warm evening, Matthew stopped at the store to buy something delicious for dinner. He remembered that his wife liked eclairs and decided to make her a little surprise, as she hadn't been herself lately. In line, he ran into Rachel, Laurel's friend. "Oh, hi, Rachel. So how was the trip? Did you like it?" "Hi. What trip are you talking about?" She was surprised. "Well, your grandfather's cabin, where you used to live in childhood." "What are you talking about? I don't have any grandfather's cabin. I haven't been out of the city in ages." Matthew left all the goods at the checkout and rushed out of the store. "Oops," Rachel could only squeak, realizing how she had set up her friend. She tried to call Laurel, but she had been unreachable. In their short married life, Laurel had learned to read her husband's emotions, and if he came home in a bad mood, she immediately sensed Matthew's state. Now he stormed into the house like a whirlwind, and, looking at him, everyone could think that he was going to explode at any minute. "What's wrong with you, dear?" asked Laurel, trying to soothe him, but he looked at her with wolfish eyes and went to the kitchen to brew himself some coffee. "Sit down, I'll make it. Do you want something to eat?" asked Laurel, showing her care. "You know, Laurel, I'd prefer to hear an interesting story from you first." "What kind of story?" His wife was nervous. She clearly didn't like the situation, which was getting more and more tense. "Well, we're about to find out. I met Rachel at the store, and you know what? I found out from her that she didn't have any grandfather's forest house. Unbelievable, right?" "Yeah." Laurel lowered her eyes, realizing that something irreparable was about to happen. "I'll explain everything to you honestly right now. You've already explained everything when you lied to me. Wasn't I enough for you in our marriage? I cured your father. You don't need to work. What else do you need in this life?" shouted Matthew with hatred. His anger was righteous, and it was hard to extinguish that flame. Laurel began, but a spasm of nervousness twisted her. You're a snake that I kept warm on my chest. You're a cheater." Enraged, Matthew grabbed his wife by the hair and delivered a strong slap. The world before the woman wobbled. It was like 1,000 stars exploded in her head, and her eyes went dark. The pain in her stomach became unbearable, and Laurel lost consciousness. "Miscarriage," the gynecologist said matter-of-factly. He had to say this very often, and he was already used to it and became callous. But for his patients, it was a huge personal tragedy. No, he wasn't a bad or cynical doctor. He was just tired of endless tragedies. Laurel lay there not wanting anything, not even to move. They put IVs in her. Her condition was stable, but she lost a lot of blood, and she lost her baby. And in her despair, the woman didn't even blame Matthew for his actions. It was justified by her lie. She scolded herself for forgetting to ask Rachel to cover for her and to lie to her husband. However, Rachel also reproached herself for her loose tongue and felt guilty. She visited her friend every day, and one day Laurel told her secret. "So are you saying that Paul is alive?" Rachel didn't even try to hide her surprise. "I wouldn't have believed it myself if I hadn't seen him with my own eyes." "And what are you going to do now?" "What can I do? Look, I'm lying here full of injections. What can I do now?" "Listen, you can't, but I can. You haven't told your husband anything yet, right?" "No, but you don't know where to drive, do you?" "Laurel, I want to fix my mistake. Take your time and tell me in detail. I'll talk to Paul and we'll figure out what to do. Besides, I always liked Paul more than Matthew. By the way, is your husband repentant, or are you getting a divorce and going back to your maiden name?" Laurel smiled sadly. "I don't know what's on his mind. He's sending me repentance SMS messages and paying for treatment, but I'm not ready to see him in person yet. I don't know if I even want to see him. I love Paul, and I was going to stay with Matthew because of the child, but now there is no child." Saying this, Laurel turned to the window and cried. Rachel understood that it was best to leave her friend alone now, and she quietly left. Cuthbert was particularly tired today. Berry and mushroom picking had started to take more energy than before. He was pleased that the children were increasingly joining him. It was interesting for him to teach them and to tell the younger generation about life in the stone jungles, which they had never seen before. The children perceived his descriptions of cities in the same way that Cuthbert himself perceived tales of wizards and fairies. Paul was busy with his usual activity, making toys. This time he was making a set of wooden soldiers, all of which looked similar. It was worth noting that he had become a master of his craft. "Well done, beautiful carving. They look just like real ones. Each boy will get a warrior, right?" Cuthbert praised Paul. "Yes, 7 are ready, 2 more to go. Then I'll ask Brady for more blanks. You know, I'm inspired to be useful. I'm carving trinkets, keeping busy, and sometimes I forget that my legs don't work. I like seeing the children's eyes when they receive gifts. I wonder if I'll ever have my own child, a son or a daughter. Oh, dreams." "Cheer up, Paul. Now it's up to Laurel. By the way, I haven't heard from her in a long time, and I have a bad feeling about something," said the old man. He was silent for a minute, thinking about something, and then finally made his decision. "I'll go to the city again." "For me?" asked stunned Paul. "For you, for Laurel, and for myself. I haven't been feeling very well lately. Maybe there won't be any more opportunities to see my hometown." The old man replied and began to gather his things. 20 minutes later, he was walking along the forest path. When the old man reached the edge of the thicket where a wooden post stood, he saw a car and a woman next to it. "Daughter, where are you going?" the old man asked sympathetically. "Probably to you. Are you Cuthbert?" The old man nodded and the woman introduced herself. "I'm Rachel, Laurel's friend. Get into the car, please. Let's go to Laurel. She couldn't come herself. It's hard for her without you. She needs advice." "What happened to her?" worried Cuthbert. Rachel explained. "She was pregnant. Her husband became very jealous when he found out about her trip here and hit her. She lost the baby, and she's in the ICU now. Her condition is stable but serious." "Ooh, she really got into trouble," said the old man, and thoughtfully stroked his beard. They arrived at the hospital closer to the evening. Rachel saw Matthew's car parked near the entrance and warned the old man about that. "Don't worry, we'll take the risk," said the old man, calmly placing his hand on Rachel's. "Well, if we're taking the risk, hold this. Can you use it?" The woman handed him a dictaphone. "I'm not that ancient, dear. It's even offensive. Of course I know how to use it." Cuthbert pretended to be offended. "Don't be offended. It's all because of your beard." Rachel smiled. "Well, let's go." The old man smiled in response and got out of the car. Matthew was not in the hall. The old man headed for the department, but someone called out to him. "Stop! No visitors allowed. I'll call security right now." "Are you talking to me, dear? I've been working in this hospital for 20 years. Then take this." The former surgeon handed the woman his passport and asked to call the head of the department. 15 minutes later, Cuthbert entered the ward. Laurel wasn't sleeping. He looked at the pale, emaciated woman and said hello. "Oh, Cuthbert, how did you get here? Did Rachel reach you?" The surprised patient bombarded the old man with questions. "Yes, everything's fine. Now listen to me. Here's a dictaphone. I'll put it in your hand and you turn it on when your husband comes in and pretend to be sleeping. I asked my ex-colleagues to delay him for a couple of minutes, and they're running out now. Don't show any signs that you're conscious so that nothing happens. Do you understand?" Laurel nodded in agreement, and the old man handed her the recorder. When hurried steps were heard in the hallway, she pressed the button and tried to breathe as evenly as possible. Matthew rushed into the ward. He had been tormented by guilt since he hit his wife. He wanted to explain himself, beg for forgiveness, even kneel at any cost to fix what he had done. He sincerely loved her and was afraid of losing her, and now wanted to find peace through forgiveness. But seeing Cuthbert, Matthew got furious right away. Everything started with that damn old man. "What the hell are you doing here?" The man started to shout, but Cuthbert put a finger to his lips and gestured towards the sleeping woman. That was enough to calm down Matthew's spreading rage. "She's my wife. Who let you in? Get out of here," hissed Matthew. "If she's your wife, does that mean you have the right to beat her? You're walking on thin ice." "I feel bad, even without you moralizing. Are you her relative? If not, leave us alone, and we'll figure it out on our own." "Well, how did you think this would end? You can't build happiness on someone else's misery. Have you heard that before?" "I don't live on someone else's misery." "Oh, really? And what about the unfortunate Hunt?" "What do you want?" tiredly asked Matthew. "The truth, from beginning to end. Notice, I'm not asking you to confess. Just tell me how you killed Paul." "I didn't kill him. It was the bear," protested Matthew. "I asked for the truth." "The bear doesn't attack humans at this time. It sleeps soundly if not disturbed," the old man reasonably noted. "Old man, why do you want to know all this if you already know everything?" "I offered you my conditions. Tell me the truth and I'll leave you alone. Is that a deal?" "Fine, Grandpa. You've got it. Just make sure after my story I don't see you anymore. Agreed?" "Okay. Since my beauty is asleep, we have plenty of time. I'll start from the beginning. Paul and I have been inseparable since childhood. We were friends, grew up, conquered the peaks. One trouble. We fell in love with the same girl. But Laurel chose Paul. I endured the beginning of their relationship. How they ran around like happy puppies. Yes, damn it, I was consumed with envy. The most natural envy. It tormented me then as much as my conscience does now. But I would do it again if I had the choice, because I love her. And how did you come up with the plan with the bear? Cuthbert asked a leading question. Well, Paul and I had a shared hobby and a shared business. After a hard work week, we like to relax by shooting some animals to feel free, you know? Anyway, we often hunted in those parts. There were no dens there before, but here I noticed one. At first I thought I'd try to lure the beast out and shoot it together, but then I decided not to touch it for now, and I didn't say anything to Paul. So, you were waiting for the right moment? No, I just wasn't ready then, but I made up my mind when Laurel and Paul announced their upcoming wedding. A switch flipped in my head. I thought everything can be arranged as an accident, which worked out perfectly, as you know. I even got a batch of 40 cartridges from the double-barreled shotgun, which I handed to my friend. Not that I thought Paul had a chance against the bear, but business teaches us to be cautious. Okay, so how did you wake up the bear? Firecrackers. Just a simple firecracker that woke up the bear from his sleep. It was very offended and started looking for someone to punish for the offence. I went in the opposite direction as a precaution, but Paul went straight to his death. It's a pity for the bear. He probably died too. Why did you shoot the bear? What was the point if everything was planned out nicely? Oh, you know about that too. You really do have a gift, apparently. Yes, I understood that you look at me and think I am a real scumbag, that I set up my friend, killed him and took his fiancée for myself. But I am also human. Honestly, in the last moment, when the beast threw Paul against the tree with its paw, all the years of our friendship flashed before my eyes. All the fights we had when we were fighting against a whole horde together. Our first hesitant dates and the heartbreak we went through. In short, it was a surge of emotion to save him, but I couldn't. The bear quickly chased after me, but I managed to get to the car and drive away. I got drunk that day. I thought I'd blow my brains out. It would be fair to Paul, but I held back. So, did you start to reap the rewards of your crime after that? The next day I gave Laurel the bad news, and when she was crying on my chest and I was consoling her as best I could, the thought of suicide evaporated from my mind. I believed that a new life had come for me, with a clean sheet. When I started dating this wonderful woman, I was over the moon, and only your appearance put a stop to my happiness. So, I am overjoyed that we're saying goodbye now, as we agreed. Now, leave me alone with my girl. Okay, the old man said, extending his hand for a handshake. Meanwhile, his free hand took the dictaphone from Laurel so Matthew wouldn't notice the change. That same evening, Matthew was arrested on suspicion of murder. During the interrogation, Paul, in a wheelchair, drove into the room and looked piercingly at his failed murderer. Matthew burst into tears. Paul took over the business, much to the surprise of his employees. Matthew handed his share to him. Cuthbert initially wanted to leave and live in solitude, but the young couple owed him everything and asked him to stay and live with them. Though it was too late for him to return to his profession as a surgeon, he found a new hobby that he enjoyed. He began studying psychology, at first for himself and then to help others. He determined what a person needed and provided it. Those who truly needed a prediction received it, while those who simply sought advice from a wise man received it from Cuthbert too. Others just needed someone to talk to, and the old man listened carefully without rushing. His life had taken on a new meaning, as he gave people the will to live and fight. Occasionally, the family would visit a secluded village. For city dwellers, it was a unique place for the soul. They helped by bringing medicines that the settlers themselves could not obtain. One morning, Laurel didn't feel well. It's been like that when I was pregnant for the first time. I have to get a test right away. I will go to the pharmacy for the test, dear. Let me just drink my coffee. Cuthbert was sitting across from them, drinking tea. Watching Laurel's tossing and turning, it was as if he knew the answer in advance that the test would be positive, and he chuckled quietly into his beard.